The selective use of images throughout your database can accomplish several tasks. They can help your documents conform to company branding standards or reinforce organizational pride. They can also make your database more attractive and give it a bit of personality, maybe even make it more fun or inspirational for your end users. Now, there are 4 different ways to add unbound images to your forms and reports. And when I say unbound, I mean not connected to a data source, like our employees' photos were. Let's go ahead and go back to that controls form that we set up earlier. I'll right-click on it and say Design View. Now over here in the controls group, if I scroll to the end, we can find this control here called the image control. This is one way that we can add an image into our form. We can also use this button over here that says Insert Image. And when I click on it, it'll give me a small gallery of any images that I might have used already. In this case, I haven't used any yet, so this gallery is empty. I can also insert an image using this logo button up here. If I add a logo, it'll ask me for the image, and when I choose the image here and say OK, it adds it into a header section up here, and it formats it just in the top left corner. I'm going to press this button over here that says Undo, or press Ctrl-Z on the keyboard to undo that change. Finally, we can go over here to the Format tab, and we have this background image property. If I click on that and say Browse, I can choose the same image, this Kinetico logo. We'll go ahead and say OK, and that adds an image into the background of my form. And we can also see in the Format tab of the property sheet for the form that it adds this picture property right there. Once again, I'm going to undo this change here, and we're going to go back to the Design tab, and we're going to take a look at that image control right here. I'll click on it here, and I'll drag out a box where I want my image to appear. Once again, that brings up the Insert Picture dialog box, where I can choose the image, this Kinetico logo from the Chapter 3 folder. We'll go ahead and say OK, and the image gets dropped down there. Let's go ahead and turn our attention over here to the property sheet. The size mode property here is currently set to zoom. That's the default. The zoom size mode ensures that my image doesn't get distorted as I resize the bounding box. For instance, if I make it wider, the image just scoots over here to the middle. Or if I make it taller, it actually zooms in to fill, but it doesn't distort. If I make it narrower, you can see again, it's centered here in the screen, but it's not distorted. I can change where the picture alignment is here. From center here, I can use this dropdown to move it to different places around the bounding box. For instance, I can choose top left, in which case it'll lock it to the top left corner, and I can resize it like this. Or I can change it over here to the bottom right, or somewhere else. I'm going to go ahead and change it back to center. We can also change this size mode from zoom here into stretch. Stretch is going to fill out the bounding box regardless of the proportions of it, so it might actually distort your image. I can make it narrow here, and you can see it gets squashed down. If I make it taller, that's closer to the way the image originally was, but if I make it narrower here, you can see it gets squished the other way. Finally, the other option here is clip. When I choose clip, the image comes in at 100% size, or its original dimensions, and it uses this bounding box as kind of a clipping mask. So if I make the bounding box really big, the image appears smaller here in the center. But if I make it smaller, you can see that the image actually gets clipped out. Let's go ahead and return the size mode to zoom. We can also see here in the properties that this picture type is listed as embedded. That means that when I imported this picture, it actually made a copy inside of the Access database file. If I move the Access database to a different computer, then I don't have to worry about it losing connection to this graphic. It'll still stay placed inside of this form. If we wanted to, we can actually create a linked image instead. To do that, I'll go back up here to the controls, and I'll find the image control. I'll click on it, and then I'll drag out a box where I want that one to appear. Once again, the Insert Picture dialog box opens, but I'm going to press Cancel this time instead. And over here, the picture type, I'm going to change it from embedded to linked. Now, here in the picture property, it says None currently. I'll click on the Browse button here to link an image. I'll go ahead and choose the same Kinetico logo file here and press OK. And now you can see that this picture is storing the file paths of the image, and compare that one to the embedded one that just has the file name here. Let's go ahead and get rid of this linked one. I'll select it and press Delete. Now there's one more property that I want to take a look at, but it's going to require a specially formatted image. So let's once again go up here to the controls group. I'll grab an image control, and I'll come down here and I'll just draw out a small box. This time I'm going to choose this image here called Tile. This image was created so that it tiles across as we create duplicate copies next to each other. I'm going to go ahead and select it and press OK. That'll add the image in here into the control box. Now we can take a look at this picture tiling property here. Currently set to no, I can go ahead and change it to yes. And now if I resize this bounding box, let me scoot it over a little bit and make it a lot wider, you'll see that the image gets tiled, so I get multiple copies of the same image that stack up and fill out that space. We can use this to create some interesting border effects. So in fact, let me move this out of the way and I'll just scoot this over here to the top left. I'll drag it over here to the right-hand side and take a look at my form. Go to the Home tab and switch my view here. So now you can see I got this interesting border. We can actually combine this object with the anchoring properties in order to get it to stretch all the way across the screen. Let me go ahead and switch back into Design View. I'll make sure the object is still selected. And if we go up to the Arrange tab and take a look at anchoring, I can choose Stretch Across Top here, and that'll stretch it all the way across regardless of how big my screen is. Go over to the Home tab and take a look. So those are just a few ways that you can use graphics inside of your form and report designs. Adding graphics, when done tastefully, and especially when it aids legibility, can take a drab, gray collection of buttons and tables and turn it into an engaging tool for your end users.